This is the ultimate camera test of Google Pixel 8a versus Samsung Galaxy S23 Fan Edition. The battle of the best camera phones, price to performance ratio. Let the battle begin. Today is a really good fight between the flagship killer Pixel 8a, which is the mid-range phone of Pixel with an insane specs and closely matches the flagship Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro. Competing with Samsung's flagship killer as well from last year, the Galaxy S23 Fan Edition, which is a similar path as Pixel 8a, a flagship specs and sensors sold on a really good price point. Today we're comparing both indoors and outdoors. We're looking closely on the colors, saturation, portrait mode, and night shot, and everything else on this comparison. We're also utilizing all sensors front and back from the ultra-wide telephoto and selfie. Let's begin with color profile and saturation, and starting with Pixel 8a, I like the well-balanced image. I should say it has better color reproduction than Galaxy S23 FE. It's not overly exposed and the new Pixel mid-range manages the highlights better. It crushes the shadows a little bit looking at the trees and grass and even the roof. It also has better contrast than Samsung Galaxy S23 Fan Edition. If you look closely on the close-up shots with the flowers, teddy bears, you will see that there's more details on the 64-megapixel sensor of Pixel 8a, and in general, the overall feel of Pixel 8a, I should say 60 to 70% of the time, it is warmer than S23 FE. Also, if you look at the zoom shots on this phone, you will notice that the 2x digital crop of this phone is as good as any other optical zooms of any smartphones. While Galaxy S23 FE is a tad brighter than Pixel 8a, from my previous camera comparison video of this phone, it also crashes the shadows like Pixel 8a and natural looking, but after a few updates, I noticed that the colors and exposure are sometimes inconsistent on this phone. I'm not sure if Samsung is trying to make the camera worse on this phone. People might not like this theory, but this is the first time I saw this phone having these overly exposed photos. And mind you that the lenses on these phones are clean before taking these shots. The sky on this phone is more vibrant or bluer than Pixel 8a, which is sometimes nice, especially if you're posting this on social media. It is also warmer than Pixel 8a in some situation, but most of the time it is cooler than Pixel 8a indoors. There's also a little bit of smoothing going on if you look on the flowers or the fabrics. It has less information than Pixel 8a, so it's leaning towards smoother portrait mode and subject. I like that this phone still has a dedicated 3x optical zoom. I still feel that even though iPhones and Pixel phones has lossless digital crop, optical zoom is still the way to go. Looking at all three sensors from the ultra-wide and the telephoto, you will notice the Galaxy S23 FE exposes the image really well. It is brighter than Pixel 8a. There's a difference of 7 months from these two phones. The newer Pixel has dual camera setup with 64-megapixel wide and 13-megapixel ultra-wide, while Galaxy S23 FE is 50-megapixel main, 8-megapixel telephoto, and also has a 12-megapixel ultra-wide. That's 1 megapixel higher than the newer Pixel. Both phones can shoot 4K 60 FPS on the rear and the selfie camera. And going back to this test, I think this will be a personal preference. Honestly, some would probably want a natural looking and well-balanced photo from Pixel, while some prefer a brighter and livelier photos from S23 FE. And looking at all sensors from the ultra-wide and telephoto, Samsung Galaxy S23 FE is brighter in all conditions, and it also has a farther reach than Pixel 8a. This is Google Pixel 8a in 4K 30 FPS using the selfie camera. What I like about this phone is this is compact, and comparing it with the other Pixel phones like the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro, it has the same processor as the flagship competition. So basically, you're saving a lot of money if you purchase this phone. While Samsung Galaxy S23 FE has a lot of software features, Google Pixel 8a has long exposure. This is actually better on nighttime, but just to show you, this will have blurry images on moving subject. Let's talk about portrait mode, and both phones are equally impressive, but I feel like you would like one over the other based from their look. Pixel 8a is more detailed, you can definitely see it on the face. There's a couple of shots that the main sensor of S23 FE misfires on the autofocus, so that is better on the new Pixel 8a. I should say it has a natural looking skin tone closer in real life. It also has a better contrast than S23 FE. You'll see that the new Pixel crushes the hairs and darker areas on the image. It also has a gradual blur, which is good, but the only thing I don't like about this phone is the cutout, because on a busy background you will see a lot of misses, especially if you're looking at this image on a bigger screen. Also, the focal length of 1.7x and 2x isn't far enough for the distinction, so basically you're shooting around 40 to 50 millimeters on a portrait shot. While Galaxy S23 FE is a better cutout than Pixel 8a, it also has a smooth skin effect by default, so if you like to see those edited looking portrait shots, then this phone might be the better option. It is also brighter than a new Pixel, but what I don't like about the brightness is the exposure is sometimes too much, and people are commenting that the lens have smudges, but both of these phones are cleaned before doing this comparison test. The new Fan Edition also has a creamier background blur than Pixel 8a that is sometimes associated with bigger and faster lenses, and you will see that it has 3 usable focal length from 1x, 2x, and 3x, which is 24mm, 50mm, and 85mm shot. Going for the selfie camera, it's a different story. I think the focal length on Pixel 8a is more usable than Galaxy S23 FE. You will see that it is wider than the Samsung competition, so you can fit more on the screen. It also has a better contrast, but again, the brighter exposure goes to the Samsung Fan Edition. Going for the night shot, I think this is one of the biggest difference in terms of image quality. You can see that Pixel 8a has better contrast than S23 FE. Again, it tends to crush the blacks. I just don't like the purplish tint on the more challenging situations, and a lot of times it is softer than Galaxy S23 FE. While I noticed that S23 FE has a warmer look than Pixel 8a, also it has a tendency of having better exposure than the Pixel competition, but you will see that it's sharper than Pixel 8a. It also cleans up the noise better on pitch black condition. Both phones can shoot on the ultra-wide lens, main sensor, and even the 3x optical zoom. Pixel 8a is just punching in using the digital crop on 2x. This is Samsung Galaxy S23 Fan Edition in 4K 60 FPS using the selfie camera. I think if you wanted to buy a Samsung phone, this is the best phone price to performance ratio. It doesn't have the latest processor from Snapdragon, although it doesn't have the latest chipset, but at least you get a Snapdragon processor. We also have the 8K 24 FPS cinematic video or cinematic footage on Galaxy S23 Fan Edition, and a director's view which shoots front and back. This is called dual video recording on some of the Samsung phones. The 8K video recording and director's view are not present on Pixel 8a. Checking who manages the flaring better, I think both phones are really good, both ultra-wide and the main sensor. On night shots, you will see there's a little bit of halo on Pixel 8a, so I think S23 FE is a little bit better. Talking about highlights, if you zoom in on the strong light source like on this window, you will see that there's a little bit more information on Pixel 8a, but again, it's almost the same. Checking the exposure on both phones with night shots turned off, you will see that S23 FE is better exposed, but it's also noisier compared to Pixel 8a. Now going for the closest focus, both phones are the same distance. They don't have macro mode, but one standout feature of S23 Fan Edition is the 3x optical zoom, so you can punch in on the subject. That also makes it like a macro shot. Talking about sharpness and farther reach, starting with the ultra-wide lens, if you punch in, you will see that S23 FE has a slight advantage on this. On the main sensor, it's almost the same. There's just a little bit of over-sharpening going on Galaxy, and Pixel 8a is natural looking. Of course, you have a 3x optical zoom on Galaxy S23 FE, and also it has a farther reach. And lastly, details. These are both 12 megapixel JPEG, but you can also shoot 50 megapixel on S23 FE. And if you zoom in, you will see a little bit more information and more details on Samsung Fan Edition. So I think that's it for the image test. Biggest difference is the colors, the portrait mode, and night shot. Now let's do the video test from the stabilization, low light, and slow motion. Starting with the zoom and stabilization test, this is the ultra-wide lens in 4K 30 FPS. And we're switching to the main sensor. I like the colors on Pixel 8a. It's more saturated, but S23 FE is natural looking. And this is the digital crop versus the optical zoom of S23 FE, and you would get better reach and details on Samsung's Fan Edition. Now on a more busy movement, this is the ultra-wide lens, again in 4K 30 FPS, and the stabilization while running is a little bit jittery on Pixel 8a. And same with the main sensor, again it's a little bit wobbly and jerky on Pixel 8a. Samsung Galaxy S23 FE is holding the stabilization really well. This is the selfie video recording in 4K 30 FPS, and you will see that there's a little bit of jello effect while bouncing on S23 FE, while it's so much better on the new Pixel 8a. This is the slow motion test or 1/4, and you will see that there's more details on S23 FE. It's also slower. And this is the super slow motion or 1/8, and again, same tendency as the slow motion, more details on Galaxy S23 FE. And lastly, low light video, starting with the ultra wide lens to the main sensor. You would notice that it's noisier on Pixel 8a and also skipping some frame rates while panning. I like S23 FE here. I think overall, Pixel 8a has better image quality than S23 FE, better colors and well balanced, while S23 FE has more video features, better stabilization. You would also get better low light video and slow motion.